This is a continuation of my previous video where I have done an indoor studio kind of photo shoot with the OnePlus 7 Pro and shared the images along with my honest opinions. In that video, I've shared everything about the Pro Mode interface and all the other technical things that you need to know about the OnePlus 7 Pro's Pro Camera mode, which I'm not gonna repeat in this video. In today's video, I'll discuss about the outdoor photo shoot that I have done with the OnePlus 7 Pro. I'll show you the images and then I'll also show you how I edited 3 of my most favorite ones from the bunch and what you can achieve with just a smartphone camera these days, along with a little bit of editing magic in Photoshop. Although the purpose of this video is not to teach you how to actually edit or composite your images in Photoshop, but to show you what are some of the possibilities and share a few tips on what should you keep in mind while doing this kind of composites. I'll make detailed breakdown videos of my actual editing process in Photoshop separately on this channel. So if you're interested in those kind of stuffs, then definitely keep an eye on my channel. The main purpose of this video is to share my review of the OnePlus 7 Pro camera and how it performs in Pro mode in outdoor situations and whether or not we can consider a smartphone camera like this for this kind of photo shoots. But before moving on, let me tell you upfront that this video is not sponsored by OnePlus. With that out of the way, let's begin. My name is Shubhodip Mondal. I'm an independent filmmaker and an equally passionate guitarist. On this channel, I upload short films, music videos, photo and video editing tutorials and guitar tutorials as well. So if you're new here and are interested in any of these topics, then please consider subscribing by clicking on the big red subscribe button down there and also click the bell icon next to it to turn on notifications so that you don't miss any updates whenever I upload a new video. Getting all those things out of the way, let's get started with the video. Okay, so let's look at the first image of a beautiful model, Shumi. You can follow her on Instagram at shumidash2809. As I've told you in my previous video, all the images taken with the Pro mode of the OnePlus 7 Pro camera are saved in both JPG and RAW DNG format. So this is the JPG version that's been saved with the RAW DNG one. You can see this does not look that impressive. Now let's switch over to the RAW DNG one. You can see right away that the raw image has a lot more dynamic range, which is great for editing. And this is true for all the images. You can see that these images are backlit. The sun is coming from this side. We did this shoot in the golden hour and that's why the sun is coming down at an angle, creating this beautiful backlight. Just before the shoot, it was raining heavily and once the rain stopped, the clouds were changing rapidly and that made this photo shoot a lot harder. In a perfect scenario, I would have bounced some light back onto her face with a 5-in-1 reflector and that would have made these images look a lot better. But due to the rain, we didn't get the time to set up and we clicked as many photos as quickly as possible. But that ultimately helped me push the OnePlus cameras to its limits and test out how the images would turn out if you have nothing but the phone camera only. You can see the raw DNG images really hold a lot of details in them and it really helps a lot in the post-processing. Let's see what are the possibilities. This is one of the top 3 images. Those are my absolute favorites from the photo shoot. This is the raw DNG straight out of the camera. With a little bit of camera raw adjustments, you can get something like this. In my opinion, this is already looking pretty good without having to do any kind of complicated edits. This shows the power of raw DNG capture. you can really push the image in post-processing. If you notice, the sky was completely blown out in the JPG one, and there wasn't any way you could have saved the image without doing any kind of complicated editing like sky replacement and all. Due to the increased dynamic range, the raw image has been successful in retaining the details of the sky, which you can even further recover with a simple highlight recovery in any editing application to bring out more of the colors from the sky. This is as simple as dragging a slider. Now if we move on with the edit, I have retouched the image to hide all the imperfections on it with mostly using the healing brush tool in Photoshop. Now you can be completely fine with this edit and call it a day. It's already looking red, but I wanted to give it a DSLR-like effect by adding a fake background blur. To do that, I selected the subject and used Photoshop's incredible content-aware fill to remove the subject from the background so that I can work on it separately. I've blurred the background using the field blur effect. Now if I bring back her, you can see right away the image is looking way more expensive. People can easily be fooled by thinking this to be taken with a DSLR and a high-end lens. What do you think? So if you don't have an expensive DSLR but you still want your photos to look expensive, you can easily turn the images taken with just your smartphone camera from average to amazing with this trick. Now let's move on with the edit and see what else I have done. Once the background has been separated, it gives you the opportunity to bring its exposure down slightly and bring up the exposure of the subject to make her pop even more. Then I have dodged the highlights to give some specular highlight pops. This has given her some depth and she is not looking flat. Then I have done some more color and exposure adjustments to my liking, added a light leak in very low opacity to give the image a bit of warmth, and finally I did an overall color grading to tie in everything a bit more precisely. After doing all this, you get something like this. In my honest opinion, as mobile phone photos, this is really impressive. Now let's see some more backlit images. Here also you can notice the raw DNG shots have way better dynamic range, which is kind of obvious. Raw always gives you raw power. Normally I would have skipped these ones, but later I thought perhaps these images can be saved with a bit of compositing, so let's see what I did. First of all, with some camera raw adjustments and the 4:5 Instagram crop, we get something like this. Well, good enough. But I absolutely hate the fact that the sky is completely lost. Although for extreme backlit photos like this one, these are pretty common if you don't use a flash or even a reflector to bounce back some light onto your subject. As I had exposed for my subject, the bright sky has been completely blown out. But no problem, as the master says, we live in the magical world of Photoshop. If you don't like the background, change the background entirely. And I did exactly that. So I googled a mountain image and placed it as the background for this image. Much better. But it's not done yet. We have to match our subject to better fit with the background. So I color corrected the subject in parts. Firstly, an overall correction to give a good starting point, but you can see her dress and her legs still have a greenish yellow cast on them, which are coming from the reflection of the green grass, so I color corrected them separately. Now it's looking way better. But you can notice the blown out sky behind her hair. I did not get a clean selection around the hair as it was backlit, and that's why it's not looking convincing at all. When you can't solve a problem, you should embrace it. So instead of trying to fix it, I placed a radial gradient filter to simulate a strong backlight behind her. It created a nice halo around her, which not only solved the problem but also gave the image an ethereal feel, isn't it? It also helped the overall composite to blend better. Then I lowered the saturation of the foreground and the subject to better match the background. Then I added a fair amount of contrast to give it some edge. Next, I added a smoke overlay, slight amount of film grain, and finally, I graded the overall image and gave it a faded look. So this is what we started from, and this is where we have arrived. How do you like these images so far? Comment down below right now and let me know. Now before moving on, let me quickly tell you about Skillshare. If you're just a beginner and know nothing about photography and photo editing, but you are really passionate about this and want to learn properly, then you can join Skillshare to develop your photography and editing skills. Skillshare is an online learning platform having thousands of classes on all kinds of topics. You can easily learn photography and photo editing from the comfort of your home by watching step-by-step tutorial videos on Skillshare. The problem with YouTube is you don't get to follow a proper path if you want to develop any skill. Whereas here in Skillshare, you just need to pick a topic and you will get proper step-by-step guide from world-class teachers, so you wouldn't feel lost in the abundance of free knowledge. And the best part of Skillshare is, once you subscribe to their service, you will get unlimited access to all their contents. You can learn and develop any skill anytime. Moreover, I'll leave a link for you to join Skillshare today, and if you join through my link right now, then you will get 2 months of premium access to Skillshare for absolutely free, which is mind-blowing. So if you want to learn photography and photo editing or anything else, then you definitely need to grab this opportunity before anyone else, because this offer is valid only to the first 500 people who joins through my link. So what are you waiting for? Jump over to the video description below and find the link to join Skillshare for free and start learning today. Now coming back to our topic, let's see the last few photos. In this next set of photos, the sun was coming from the left side in an approx 45-degree angle. You can tell that by looking at the shadow. Here I wanted to have the sun act as a side light. As I'm more of a filmmaker and a cinematographer than a photographer, I tend to like dramatic lighting much more than flat lighting. Although it would have been much better if I had the 5-in-1 reflector with me, then I would have diffused the harsh sunlight that's falling onto her face to soften it up a bit. Or at least I could have reflected some light back onto her shadow side to decrease the contrast a bit. But as I've already told you, due to the bad weather, the sun and the clouds were behaving unpredictably, so I had to settle for this only. You can see, as these are not directly backlit images, the sky is also present in the JPG ones as well. The raw DNG files don't have the contrast and the denoising pre-applied. By looking at these images, you can tell that if you want to showcase your photography skills, then you cannot simply just share these images without doing any editing. But if you know how to edit your photos, then you can get stunning results with so little equipment. I rarely share any unedited image on my profile. When it comes to photography, I strongly believe that camera only does half of the job and editing is an integral part of the whole photography process. The images you take really come to life or perhaps die in the editing process. So definitely hone your editing skills as much as possible. So from this set of images, I chose this one to edit. For this one too, I didn't like the background that much, so I typed in forest in Google search and found this image which I really liked. I wanted the trees from this image to be the background of this one. I also wanted the final image to have a shallow depth of field, so I edited the forest image and also blurred it with the field blur effect. Then I placed the foreground elements on top of it. I took another field blur effect and applied selectively on the foreground elements as per the distance to give it a realistic, gradual blurring effect. It also helped the foreground elements to blend seamlessly with the background. Now it's time to match the colors. Firstly, I brought out the color of her hair, then color corrected the foreground elements to match the background. Then, similar to the previous edit, I also added a radial gradient behind her to separate her from the background even more. Then with the help of the liquify tool, I adjusted her dress a bit. And finally, I upgraded the whole image as one. So this was the image straight out of the camera before we have done any editing. And after going through all the editing steps, we get something like this. Let me know in the comment section right now how much do you like it. Now tell me honestly, if you haven't been told, would you have believed that these images are originally taken with just a OnePlus 7 Pro camera? I know I wouldn't have. It's really astonishing to see how far technology has come in terms of mobile phone imaging. It's great to have something so small in your pocket available to you all the time and still be able to get amazing results. Nowadays, there is no excuse for you to not start taking pictures. If you haven't watched my previous video, then definitely watch that video as well to see how the OnePlus 7 Pro camera performs in a studio setup. I'll link to all the equipment I have used in both this photoshoot in the video description below. So if you're interested in checking out any of the products that I have mentioned in this video or the products I use on a regular basis, you can check those out in the video description below. So that was my review of the OnePlus 7 Pro camera in Pro mode. And I'm pretty sure you can also take these samples for the OnePlus 7 as well, because the primary sensor of that phone is exactly the same as that of the OnePlus 7 Pro, which I have used here. I think if you want to buy the phone solely for its camera performance, then the OnePlus 7 might be a better option for you if you don't want to spend more for the additional features of the Pro version. If you want to buy any of these phones, then I'll leave a direct buying link to their respective Amazon page in the video description below. So definitely check that out if you're interested. You can check out all these images in detail on my Instagram profile at shubhadeep.flixcanvas. If you haven't followed me yet, then do it now, because in the next few days, I'll be posting a lot of images that you wouldn't want to miss. In the upcoming days, I'll be making more of these videos where I'll compare the OnePlus images with the images from a proper DSLR, and then I'm also planning to make the editing breakdown videos for these images, and also I'll share a few tips and tricks on mobile photography, or specifically on mobile portrait photography. So definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel to see those videos before anyone else. So that's it for today guys. I'll see you in the next video.